identity in Web3. Thank you, thank you. So what the hell is Web3? There's no official definition for what Web3 is. You can't look it up in the dictionary and it'll tell you what it is. But I'm going to attempt to explain it now. So this is one of my favorite human beings on the planet, Naval, and he defines the space in a very interesting way. So what he says is, with Web2, users are the data, corporations own the platform, and the code is closed. Whereas with Web3, users own the data, contributors own the platform, and the code is open. So this is another interesting way that I find Web3 defined, and it's the fact that with Web 1, as in the advent of the internet, it was all about connecting information together in the world. Yeah, Web 2 was about connecting all the people in the world with social media, and Web 3 now is about connecting all the value in the world. So with Web 1, that was the creation of the internet, and in order to enable that, we needed open protocols like TCP, IP, HTTP. These open protocols were vital in enabling people to build websites, right, without having to go and ask someone. So the same way that these protocols were needed for the internet, crypto protocols, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are the equivalent of the old TCP, IP, HTTP, because these old open protocols will move information around, but what Bitcoin and Ethereum enable is the ability to move value around. So this is probably the most common definition. This is a slide that I've nicked from an Andreessen Horowitz paper called Why Web3 Matters. And what it talks about is the fact that Web 1 was just the ability to read information. Web 2 was the ability to read and write information, and Web 3 is the ability to read, write, and own. Yeah, so back in the old days of the internet, all we could do was receive information from static web pages, right? So we took the information from the pages, but with Web 2, we now gained the ability to contribute information, the ability to write information. But what that meant is, in Web 1, if we were receiving the information from the pages, in Web 2, the pages were taking the information from us. And we know the problems associated with that, right? The problems, all of this data was kept on centralized servers. And the problem with that is that it's a centralized point of failure. So it's one space that you can attack and the whole thing can go down. And we remember times, probably like when Facebook, Instagram, all of that's gone down. The other problem with storing it on centralized servers is that it's a honeypot for hackers. It's lucrative to hack. And last year, there was about 500 million Facebook records got leaked. And the other problem is that you can get booted off, right? You can get cancelled out of nowhere if someone reports you or someone don't like what you're doing. You can get cancelled. And that happened with me, right? On my social media, I have clone accounts of people. So people will clone my account and start messaging people and tell them to invest in some crypto scams. But they reported me. So my real account got taken down. And all these scammers were running riot on the internet. So that got fixed, fortunately. But yeah, it's a problem. And the last fact is, the one that we all know probably, is that the fact that they monetize your data. They will sell your data to advertisers, and the key thing is that that value that they're generating does not go back to you, does not go back to the users, it goes to the shareholders. So this is what Web3 changes, right? It gives people property rights, right? The ability to own a piece of the internet. So let's talk about this a bit more. When we're comparing Web 2 with Web 3, the way that I like to talk about it is the fact that if we're talking about a Web 2 network like Facebook, and I know they're called Meta now, but let's stick with this Facebook analogy. Let's imagine Web 2 networks like Facebook are like Disneyland. They're like Disneyland, yeah, because there's top-down control. You're limited to what you can do in there. They charge you to use their services. I know Facebook don't charge you money to use their platform, but you're charged in the form of having your data taken and sold. And that money goes to the top. It goes to the shareholders. And you have no property rights in Disneyland or Facebook. Say, like, for example, if you make a Facebook page and it becomes super popular, any kind of value that gets generated from that does not go to you. It goes to the shareholders. And that's it, right? They use shares, right? So this is the model that they use, right? So with shares, it means that any value that gets generated, only the shareholders benefit. And it creates a walled garden of value that users cannot participate in. So that's Facebook, yeah. Web 2 networks are like Disneyland, whereas Web 3 networks, like Ethereum, are more like a city where there's bottom-up organic growth. There's more variety, there's more innovation, people have more power, people can build in a public street knowing that no one will charge you for walking down that street. Yeah, so it's like a paradigm shift. It's a quantum leap. And instead of shares, Web3 networks use tokens, right? Tokens give communities superpowers. So tokens, cryptocurrencies, what it means is that if you own Ethereum, you own the network. And so it means that with tokens, the users, the community, the shareholders are all accounted for by the same product. So when the Ethereum network becomes more valuable, everyone wins. So Web3, blockchains, they have the ability to disrupt every single sector on the planet. Yeah, and not enough time for me to go through all of these. So what I want to do is focus a bit more on identity, because I think identity is the key unlock to moving on to the next level of the internet. So your identity today, right? You will have your physical passport, your physical driving license. It's yours, right? You can own it, you can manage it, you can control who you want to show it to. There is no digital equivalent of that. There's no digital version of a driving license that you can use to get into anywhere you want on the internet. Because the internet was built without that identity layer, right? That's why blockchains are so important, because blockchains provide that identity layer. And right now, our best methods rely on trusting centralized servers with sensitive data. So there are honeypots of centralized servers that will contain your biometric information, your face ID, your fingerprints, your passport photos. And it's only a matter of time before those get hacked into. So that's why it's a problem, right? All of this stuff is your identity online, personally identifiable information. All of this stuff is your digital identity, and it's only growing online. It's not getting less. There's only going to be more, right? So, question: what percentage of your waking hours would you say that you spend on a screen? Yeah, for me, I'm probably going to say like 50%. Some days probably more than 50%. Like our lives are moving from the physical world onto the digital world, and this graph shows how much data is being produced and is predicted to be produced in the future, right? So most information in society now flows through the internet. We're moving from the physical world into the digital world. Everything physical is now digital. Media, news, education, work, social interactions, entertainment, it's all going online. And every time you touch the internet, every time you go onto a platform to consume one of these, that data is going to a company. And if we're going to talk about how much data is going to be produced in the future, we can't allow other countries, other companies, to keep that data and make money off that data, because these companies are going to get too powerful. Big tech is going to become too big tech. So we're producing more data than ever, and this data that we produce is going to increase in value as we spend more time on the internet. So let's talk a bit more now about how our identity functioned in the old Web 1, Web 2, and with Web 3. Right? So with the old version of Web 1, you had to have an individual username and password for every single website that you logged into. And what that is equivalent to is like having a different car for everywhere that you need to drive to. It's like having a different car to drive to the shops, different car to drive to your mum's. It's mad. So Web 2 solved this problem by giving you their car. So they give you their car, and you can use that car to drive where you want to. Like the same way that you can use sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook to go into these different websites, and you don't have to worry about different usernames and passwords. But we know there's problems with that. these guys are giving you the identity that's controlled by them, right? So that identity is not yours, it's theirs. And it means that they will take your data, and the operation of your identity depends on their service being up. That identity, you can't take it and move it somewhere else. It's locked into Facebook. And data breaches happen all the time. Like I said, 533 million records last year were breached. So Web3 is like having your own car. It's like you have your own car and you can drive that where you want to go and decide where you want to go. Instead of using sign-in with Google or Facebook or Twitter, you have your own wallet, which I'm going to talk to. So yeah, that last line at the bottom. Big tech have been taking on the function of governments, right? Because they are giving you that digital passport. Whereas now, we have the ability to create government-free passports that are entirely ours. So, like I said, you're going to be using wallets in the future to log in everywhere. And I'll touch on different types of wallets later on. But let's say your wallet right now can do a lot of different things, right? All of these different things. But with the ability to have a verifiable identity, it means that your wallet will become much more than a bank account. And so what can it do? What will this Web3 identity unlock for us? And the first thing is there'll be a universal login. So instead of having to log in everywhere, the way that it's going to work in the future is you won't even need to log into anywhere. What you'll do is connect your wallet to the browser, and that will log you into everywhere. That's the aim, right? So no more passwords, and when you're filling out registration forms, your identity is already verified. So when you log in, registration form, you don't need to spend the time filling out all these anymore because it's already verified in your wallet. And it's way more private, right? So there is this form of technology called zero-knowledge proofs. And zero-knowledge proofs are probably the most important technology in crypto after blockchains, right? Because what zero-knowledge proofs, what they mean, what they enable is the fact that you can only reveal the information that you need. So what that means is, say you need to prove that you're over 18 to get into an event. Right now, you would, if it was a physical event, you would show people your driving license, right? You don't need to show the event your name. You don't need to show them your address that's on that driving license. You don't even need to show them your date of birth. All you need to prove to them, all you need to show to them is that you're over 18. Yeah, so what zero-knowledge proofs do is enable you to just share what you need without sharing everything else. So if we have digitally enabled wallets, it means that it's a lot better for our privacy. We can only share what we want, and we don't have to reveal any other information about ourselves. And stronger DAOs, right? So these decentralized autonomous organizations that I was talking about earlier, these are the communities of the internet where we can trust each other and work together and get fairly paid, right? So right now, if you put your Ethereum wallet into a DAO, right? If you join a DAO, you connect in, you will share your Ethereum wallet address with them. All that enables is that DAO to be a shared bank account. It's like a WhatsApp group with a bank account that you can control. And without the ability to form an identity, it means that we can't move beyond that. But with the fact that we can have an identity that proves that we are an individual human, it means that we can move beyond that and move up and connect in these communities to move on and become those network states that I talked about. And decentralized finance, right? So having an identity means that we can take DeFi and decentralized finance onto the next level, right? One, it means that we can enable micro-lending. So if you want to borrow money, you won't have to go to centralized companies in order to do that. You can go onto a DeFi protocol, and there'll be other people, just literally other people out there that will be able to lend you money. And right now, in DeFi, loans are collateralized. So what that means is you need to have the money first and put that up front to be able to loan money out. But the people who need the money aren't going to be the people who already have the money that can put that up front and able to get that loan. So so as well as just enable microlending, what DeFi will enable is uncollateralized loans. So being able to have a proper identity means that we can start moving into the realms of developing credit scores for people so they can borrow money without already needing money in the first place. And probably the most important reason is that there are 1 billion people across the world that do not have an identity. And we don't think about how important our identity is, like we take it for granted, but you need it for loads of important things in your life. Opening a bank account, owning a property, voting in an election, applying for a job. There's 1 billion people in the world who cannot do that properly because they don't have an identity. So this is what it solves. So yeah, tech moves faster than governments here. We can build these identities in a decentralized way faster than governments can do. And that's if you're a user, right? But say if you're a company or business owner, what it means for you is that it will improve the user experience. So user experience when you're in an app or a system is probably the most important factor to determine engagement. And it means that you can bypass KYC. So KYC is know your customer. It's basically identity verification. And I don't know if you've ever had to go through one of these processes if you're investing in some sort of crypto or some sort of ICO, but they can take ages and there can be problems with you even getting validated. So there's that. Also reducing data leaks, like we spoke about, and improving interoperability between products, which I'll talk on a bit later, and stopping bots. So yesterday, Elon Musk bought Twitter, and this is massive, right? Because one of the main problems that he spoke about is that the main problem on Twitter that he wants to fix is stopping bots, stopping these scam fake accounts from messaging people. And one way that you can solve that is by getting people to pay for an account. Yeah, but another way that you can solve that is using some social identity verification systems like Proof of Humanity or Bright ID, which I'm going to talk about later. I'll show you them. So, most people will think that your identity will be an NFT, right? Your identity will be an NFT, but we cannot use NFTs for all forms of identity, right? Because they're public. Right, so that's immediately a problem, right? If you've got like medical data, government credentials, you don't want that to be public. And they're platform specific. So what that means is an NFT on Ethereum is different to an NFT on Polkadot, which is different to an NFT on Cardano, and you have to build in the functionality to get them to talk to each other, which is a nuisance. The other problem is that they're tradable, right? So you can't have a university give you a certificate and then you can just sell that to someone else and then they now have that degree from Harvard or whatever. So it's not ideal. Right? One way to solve that tradable problem is using something called soul-bound NFTs. So what soul-bound NFTs are NFTs that you cannot trade. They get sent to you and they're fixed into your wallet address. But there's problems with that, right? Because you can't revoke them. And there's consent issues, right? So you can't decide who sends you what. Someone can send you something and it's fixed without you being able to stop that. So a hypothetical example is that a Nazi university could send you their qualification, like, well done, mate, you're qualified Nazi. Put that into your wallet, and you can't stop them from doing that, right? You could hide it, but the issue there is there's a consent issue, and you can't decide. So instead of using non-fungible tokens, we'll be using something called verifiable credentials. Right? Non-fungible NFTs will be important in one aspect of identity, which I'll talk about in a minute. But in terms of that private ID, right, verifiable credentials, these are what we're going to use, right? And these are very similar to NFTs, right? They're open. We can build them into be whatever we want. But the difference is that they're private, right? So we can decide to hide them if we want to, and which is important, right? If you have government ID or medical data. And they're platform agnostic. So what that means is you don't have to worry about being on a certain blockchain, right? If you have your ID as a verifiable credential, you don't have to worry about bridging it across different blockchains, paying fees, and they're non-tradable also, so they're fixed to your account. but this time you can revoke them if you want to, so you have more control. So what NFTs do, what they do is that they will verify the ownership of an object, whereas verifiable credentials will uniquely identify you as an individual, right? So what that means is, what it's going to look like is that NFTs will form your public identity and verifiable credentials will be part of your private identity. So say, for example, your number one most listened to artist on Spotify, they could give you an NFT to verify that. And then when you go to an event, you can show that NFT and get any associated benefits with that. Whereas with your private identity, any kind of medical data, healthcare data, things like that, they can be in the realms of verifiable credentials, right? So that's what I want to touch on a bit more, right? This private identity, how it's going to work, how it's going to look, right? So we have spoken about these verifiable credentials. We know what the blockchain is, but what are these other things, right? Decentralized IDs, right? This is the other key unlock. And so what these are, right? So let's imagine right now, you have your traditional identifiers, right? Like your name or an email address. These are issued and controlled by third parties, right? The governments or email providers. That's traditional IDs. But decentralized IDs are issued and controlled by yourself. Right, you can create as many as you want, and you have full control over this identification of yourself. So, for example, an Ethereum address is one example, but with decentralized identifiers, they look like this, right? This is their standard format. So it means that you can pull as many decentralized IDs from that Ethereum address that you want. So you have more control, and I'll talk to you in the next slide about how that looks a bit more. But the key thing is that they're standardized, right? They follow this format. So what this means is that they're interoperable everywhere. So you don't have to worry about being locked into certain blockchains. So this is how it looks, right? So we have spoken about the blockchain, right? But in terms of identity, the way the blockchain will act is like a massive, it's like the yellow pages, like a massive global directory. It's a massive global directory where any company or any institution can create their own public profile and issue out these credentials to you, right? And these decentralized identifiers, you can create as many as you want, right? And they're under your control. So you can have one decentralized ID for your professional stuff, like university degree and course certificates that you use to apply for a job. But instead of having to worry about managing different forms of ID, you can put these ID under one key, right? So that's why decentralized identifiers are known as data backpacks, because with one code, with one key, you can manage multiple forms of ID without having to worry about individually. And with these verifiable credentials, they are not stored on centralized servers. That's the key. They can be stored locally on your device. So this is the brief run-through about how this decentralized ID is going to work. So this is what I want to end on, right? This is how you can get involved in the space. What are some actual practical things that you can do, right? So if you don't have a wallet, crypto wallet address, crypto wallet right now, I would highly recommend that you get one. These are some examples. So MetaMask is the most popular address, the most popular crypto wallet that exists, and I prefer Rainbow and Trust Wallet though, because they're better developed, right? But MetaMask, if you're beginning, I would recommend that you get that. And we have Morris, who's speaking later, who will guide you through this. So if you stick around for that talk later about NFTs, then you can do that live. So you can get that wallet for free. You don't have to pay. And but the next level is something called a ENS domain, so Ethereum name service. You do have to pay for this, but this for me is the most popular identity tool on Ethereum, which is the most popular blockchain. So what Ethereum name service do, what it does is that it can turn a string of numbers and letters, which is an Ethereum address, into a readable name, right? So what that means practically is that having an ENS domain is like combining an email address, a website, a phone number, a username, all into one. So you don't have to Yeah, so what it means is you can pay, message, use that as a social profile, send files to it. It's just that centralized hub of one space where you can do everything. And there's way more functionality that's getting built into this, right? Like this, for example, see if it works. Yeah, so this is an example of someone unlocking a door with an ENS profile, right? And this technology already exists. It's being built, right? So we can just imagine the use cases from this, right? It means that if you get an Airbnb, you don't even have to worry about the key. You don't even have to worry about keys. They can just set it so you can unlock the door with your own ENS profile. And whoops. This is another example of something called push chat by Push Protocol, where this will essentially function as a fully decentralized WhatsApp. So they say right now, WhatsApp says that your messages are encrypted or whatever, but I don't know if you trust them. But this is a really, truly decentralized form of messaging. So another thing that you can do is use Disco, right? So I don't actually use Disco yet because this wallet is slightly different to the other wallets that I was talking about earlier with MetaMask. This is a decentralized identity wallet. And what it means is that you can create your own decentralized identifiers. You can create your own verifiable credentials from this wallet that you can't do with the other wallets. And this is Lens protocol, right? So it's a decentralized form of social media. So your decentralized identity you can use on the decentralized form of social media. So yeah, that's coming. And so these two I touched on earlier, Proof of Humanity, Bright ID, what these are social identity verification networks. And like I was talking about earlier, right, with Twitter, right, what these identity networks do is enable you to prove that you are a human, right? It doesn't even mean that you don't need to even show them your name or you don't even need to show them who you are. You just prove that you are a human being. And there's so many advantages to that. Like we were talking about with Twitter, you can enable a service where you can reduce bots, you have them go to zero. And in terms of crypto, any future airdrops, right? Any NFT drops, any ICOs, they're riddled with scammers. I mean, they're riddled with bots right now. So being able to zero them out you can do that now with these tools. So you can get these both as apps as well. So I'd recommend you hop onto that. And this is the last slide. So all of these identity tools together are put into one place, right? And it's Proof of Personhood Passport by Gitcoin. And all of those tools that we've spoken about, Bright ID, Proof of Humanity, they're in this one place that you can go to. And the last thing here is Radical Exchange, right? These guys are a global movement that I just bumped into in the internet. And they have really interesting events, right, about identity specifically. There's some interesting articles on there, so I recommend that you give them a look. And thank you, everyone. That's me. You can find me at Dean Somali on all these social platforms. If you scan that QR code, it will take you directly to my social media profiles and not to any scam accounts. But yeah, thank you for listening. Cheers.
All right, massive round of applause for Dean Somali. I hope you took some notes.